This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ping.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Welcome to What the Health, an independent approach to your health span. Have you noticed how our healthcare system may not have your best interest in mind? Join Dr. Eckel in this fun and sometimes disturbing exploration of the state of healthcare and what it means for you. Now, here's your host, Dr. Eckel.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Greg Eckel, and this is What the Health. I have Jodi Cohen on board today, and she has been on the show before. She is a best-selling author, award-winning journalist, a functional practitioner, and founder of Vibrant Blue Oils, where she has combined her training in nutritional therapy and aromatherapy to create unique proprietary blends of organic and wild-crafted essential oils. She has helped over 50,000 clients heal from brain-related challenges, including anxiety, insomnia, and autoimmunity. Jodi, welcome aboard.
Oh my gosh, it's always fun to talk about what the health with you.
I love it. I love it. And this topic is near and dear, essential oils for brain health. And we have been talking, you hosted the Parasympathetic Summit and really educating a lot of people around the globe around how essential oils and just in general, the parasympathetic activity. I know near and dear to you is this essential oils, and with your Vibrant Blue Oils, I love those. The parasympathetic blend is one of my favorites. And we're going to talk about essential oils for brain health. A lot of people don't think about that, right? We don't think that there's a lot that we can do up here. And I love the olfactory route for getting to the brain, right? I mean, it is right there, cranial nerve number 1, the olfactory chain. And so I would love, I'm just going to kind of open it up with that. Essential oils for brain health, what comes up, and then we'll get into some nuances here.
Yeah, you're totally right. Most people dismiss the brain and being able to get remedies into the brain because the blood-brain barrier is such a great bodyguard. It really doesn't let most supplements in. Like you can't do chemo in the brain because the molecules can't get through. It only lets super small fat soluble molecules like essential fatty acids and essential oils and some gases through. So what does that mean? It means that oils are actually the right key to unlock that door, and they can get through the blood-brain barrier. And then because they are fat and the brain is fat and fat likes fat, they can start to, work on the cell membranes and help to clean them off from toxins and metals. They can help to dilate the vasculature so that things can actually move and not get congested. They can do a lot because they can actually get in both topically through the blood-brain barrier and then through olfactory nerve number 1. When you inhale, oils go directly into the brain as well. And the sense of smell is really the scent with the best access to the amygdala, which kind of controls your stress response. Most people don't realize our sense of smell keeps us alive. We smell food, we smell water. Back in the day when predators might hunt us down and chase us, we could smell predators. I think that's why dogs' sense of smell is so powerful, because they're kind of on the lookout for predators and food if they're anything like my dog. But we all think of, all the remedies we ingest, which is great as long as our digestion is healthy. But if, we have leaky gut or anything's compromised, it's nice to know that there are other channels to get remedies into the body.
And I like that component on perhaps on memory. I think a lot of times we have memories stored. You smell some aroma and it gives you this memory of like, oh, I remember the last time I smelled this. Do you have anything around that, or like why that is?
Yeah, memory is also keyed into survival, right? Like if you smelled fire in the past and your entire village burned down and you smell fire again, you're going to shift that or change it. If you smelled blackberries around the corner and you were starving, Pacific Northwest people that we are, I love that smell.
Yeah.
It's really cued into, it's really interesting, all of the things in our system that we don't realize are kind of working in our favor to keep us alive. But yeah, smell and memory, I think it has to do with, if you ever heard that example of how memory is selective, like most people couldn't tell you what they were doing the morning of September 10th, 2001, but they, like, every detail of September 11th, 2001 is ingrained in their brain because something really traumatic happened and they want to be prepared to prevent that from happening again.
Mm. Yeah, so that component, when you're saying that the olfactory tract goes right to the amygdala, so let's talk about that for folks that may not know what the amygdala is.
Yeah, your amygdala, there are different regions of the brain that are really designed to sense danger. Your amygdala is primary danger sensor number one. It's constantly surveying the environment. And even before you're, mentally aware of something, like there are a couple amygdala retraining programs that talk about how if you're walking through the woods and you suddenly jump back, your amygdala maybe thinks it sees a snake on the ground. And then it has a couple check-in points so that you're not constantly overreacting, like your executive function area of the brain known as your prefrontal cortex on your forehead. And the prefrontal cortex looks at it and says, oh, no, that's a stick. You're fine. And you get to keep moving. And what can happen, kind of depending on, what you use, you strengthen, what you don't use, kind of atrophies a bit. So there's this idea of amygdala hijack, which is where everything becomes a threat, and you're constantly anxious, you have chronic pain perhaps, or chronic fatigue, you're always in that overwhelmed state. And so what the research shows, that's amygdala hijack. And the way to retrain it and kind of help to calm your overactive response is to start to enhance the frontal lobe, your prefrontal cortex. And a really easy way to do that is smelling anything, because smell travels directly to your forehead, stimulates your forehead. Most of us, like if we don't feel well, if we had a headache, we put our hand on our forehead. What that's doing is it's kind of drawing heat and energy to the forehead so that it kind of enhances circulation and helps us feel better. When we smell, it does the same thing. It starts to kind of draw the energy to that calming, good cop, bad cop. Your forehead is kind of your calming, like, it's okay, it's a stick, it's, like, that's not a today problem.
Yeah.
Like, I have anxiety, so I have these conversations all the time, like, oh my God, I have to get this done. Wait, I have time, I can pause.
Is there any particular essential oils that come to mind for that amygdala hijack, or the sense of overwhelm, or the high anxiety? I mean, we're seeing a ton of people in the clinic right now and around the globe for good reasons, I suppose. And, most of us have gotten into that place where it's just stuck on alert. I mean, the media does not help that cause either.
No, and I have actually shared very detailed research if you want more information in my new book, Essential Oils to Boost the Brain and Heal the Body. But I have 3 really quick tricks. Pick the one you like the best.
Awesome.
So there's a lot of research actually that goes into the olification channel. There is a Nobel laureate researcher by the name of Linda Buck here in Seattle, who started kind of isolating the predator odor receptors in the olfactory channel. And then she took it one step further and she was like, what will cancel out this predator odor fear response? And it turned out it was rose. So stopping to smell the roses, rose essential oil, that is a really good way to turn off that fear signal immediately. You can also apply it over your heart if you're suffering from grief. It's great for a lot of things, but it really, I am my own crash test dummy. I have anxiety, I have grief. I'm always testing things on myself, and there is nothing that kind of shifts the energy faster than rose. So that is my favorite. Then I have a great trick for that really doesn't, it's not oil specific. Whatever oil you have in your hand is perfect for this one. So our colleague Titus Chu, who is a functional neurologist, which is a branch of chiropractic that really focuses on balancing different hemispheres and regions of the brain. He was saying if you're ever having an anxiety attack, that is the right frontal lobe that is overactivating. And so the way to calm that is to do something to stimulate the left frontal lobe. And the easiest way to do that is to literally take your right thumb, plug your right nostril, and smell anything. It could be any oil in your house. It could be the peel of a citrus fruit, like a tangerine where the oils live. Just smell from 3 to 7 breaths. What that's doing is it's activating the left frontal lobe, balancing the 2 brain hemispheres, and calming anxiety. I am prone to panic attacks. I can tell you personally it works, and the effects are additive and cumulative. The more you do it, the less likely you are to have an anxiety attack. And then the third one is something that I've literally made like kind of daily hygiene, like brushing my teeth and exercising and eating. And that is helping the nervous system to kind of shift into that calming safety branch known as the parasympathetic nervous system. You know, our autonomic nervous system is like the operating system for our body. It controls all of our automatic functions. And because it's designed to keep us alive, it releases different chemicals in response to different situations. For example, if you think you're going to die, it kind of downregulates, digestion, detoxification, the things that don't necessarily matter in that moment if the lion is going to eat you. And then you're supposed to survive the danger and kind of shift back into the rest, repair, recover mode known as your parasympathetic branch. Sadly, anticipatory thoughts like what you were mentioning, watching the news, reading the newspaper, talking to your friends, people get a little stuck in the I'm in danger response, and it's hard for them to shift gears because they look at the world, oh my gosh, we have to wear 2 masks now, we're still locked up, whatever is going on that's outside of their control. And they feel like they don't have any options. They have to respond from a state of stress. And what I'm here to tell you is you do. You can manually, it doesn't matter what's happening outside, you can choose to kind of be in that calm state. And there's a really easy way to do that with essential oils. So the toggle, the on-off switch between I'm going to die, the lion might eat me, I have to wear a mask for the rest of my life, and the I'm safe, it's a sunny day, I can still breathe, is your vagus nerve. It's cranial nerve number 10. Quick anatomy lesson, starts at the back of the head, splits, and is most accessible right here. If you feel behind your earlobe, that is your masstoid bone, and that is where the vagus nerve is actually the most accessible to the surface. It then kind of winds through your throat, your heart, your lungs. It is the information highway from your body to your brain and your brain to your body. And at any point that it touches any of your organs, it can be activated to help you switch gears into that safety response. Like deep breathing activates the vagus nerve. But what's really cool is you can also stimulate right behind the earlobe. I like oils. There's a bunch of research. A neuroscientist out of New York by the name of Kevin Tracy started doing a surgical implant, like a pacemaker-like device here. And that technology was approved by the FDA for epilepsy, depression, and migraines. But the point is, if you can kind of switch it on, however it works for you, I actually have a free gift to all of your listeners. Excellent. At boostbrainbook.com/gift. 25 different ways that you can activate your vagus nerve. You don't need to use all 25. You pick one, It's like you go to the restaurant, you don't need to order everything on the menu. You just pick the one thing that speaks to you.
Perfect. Yeah.
But it helps you shift out of stress.
That is so crucial. One of the components of what I really want to dub 2021 is the year to own your autonomic nervous system. So that component of realizing you actually have a choice on what is going on in between here and in here, and having this resource is really crucial for that. So that URL is in the show notes. We're sharing that with everybody because that is such a great gift for people to tune into, because we need, it's like a smorgasbord of what you've put in there. So pick the one that works for you, or the ones that resonate the most. You don't have to do them all. In fact, it's not we really don't recommend doing them all, right? You just do one at a time, see what works best for you, because we are in charge of our state, right? The more kind of madness that we see out in the world, it just really is making us have these techniques, really dig deep in this kind of self-mastery component of realizing like, no, actually I own the state that I'm in. I'm not a victim to the world. It doesn't get to influence how I'm feeling. Of course you can have your emotions and go through grief or sadness, anger, whatever comes up. Don't stuff that stuff, I call it, don't spiritually bypass it, meaning, like, oh, those are negative, I shouldn't have those emotions. But you also want to correct ship as quickly as possible and really write it of, okay, I can express all of this and I can now get back to a centered spot, right? One of those components of yoga is you never know that you're in balance until you've pushed the edge and you're out of balance, and then you can get back in. And this is just kind of reminding me of that kind of concept of being in balance means you're pushing the edges of that too. So those three techniques are really awesome, right? We've got the rose oil. Second one is the massaging behind the ear. And then the third is this bigger resource on owning your autonomic nervous system.
Yeah, and the smelling through the left.
Oh, that's smelling, right, on the right side. And smell through the left. Yes, perfect.
But you bring up such a good point. Like, I'm old enough that they used to play the Wizard of Oz on TV on Sunday night. And it was always this aha moment of like, they all felt so disempowered, but everything it was already within them. And I feel like that's kind of the critical message to your point in 2021. You may not have control over the world around you, but you have complete control over how you show up and respond to it.
Yeah. So
you're
good.
not a victim.
Yeah, we are not. We're not. And, no one that I come across, I don't see any victims out there. And so having these tools and techniques and reminders, which is a good case in point here. I just want to remind folks, if you like what you're hearing on the show, this one in particular is share it with just tag two people and share it with them. This is very practical information that we need to get out to people and share with our loved ones, because that is how we create the more beautiful world our hearts know and desire. And so is really out of that kind of more peaceful place. How about essential oils to enhance focus? Because that's another big one. I personally have noticed, like, took me basically until December 2020 to really arrive last year into, oh, this is really happening. And I realized my focus was just, I could not get into anything. I was just like too many things and distracted. So this one of particular interest for me. So essential oils to help with focus.
Yeah, I think my daughter was even saying that today. She's like, I don't even know what I want to do. I don't even know what I want to eat. Like, she's on spring break. She's like, I try watching something and it's not interesting. Then I try reading a book. I think there is that correlation between what we were talking about earlier, anxiety and focus. And the more anxious you are, the harder it is to really focus on one thing. Because, when you're trying to pick up all the danger signals, you can't really hyperfocus, right?
Yeah.
You have to be super aware of your environment. So oils that you can smell, like peppermint and rosemary, have always been researched because of the constituents that they have. So smelling it's great, topically applying it. But I find, the thing with focus, like I like EMDR, which is an eye tracking form of therapy. And the reason is, when taking that step forward, like kind of actually making a choice and locking in, that's what focus is. And that blocks out all the options that you didn't take. It's like, if you have to pick a number between 1 and 10, after you pick that one number, everything else doesn't matter. So it's a combination of, yes, you can smell oils, but I love to combine oils with movement. Like, I love your movement practice.
Yes.
Because the minute you start kind of engaging and moving and your eyes, are tracking and looking at where you're going, that helps you kind of come into your body and solidify focus. It's a great reset.
Yeah, that is a great way of doing it. I like your suggestion of keeping it with movement. I've got the cloud hands in particular that I found very easy to teach folks on how to do that. And then adding the oil in there to kind of activate your mind. So those areas, though, you really quickly went through. So you did your temples, you did kind of the third eye, and you're talking behind the ears for the
Yeah.
vagus nerve stimulation, beside the nose as well for focus.
Yeah.
Are good areas to do. You also kind of went down here. Is that like mid clavicular, or where are you putting
Yeah,
that?
well, it's really interesting. Like if you think of the bottlenecks in the body, like one of the things my book, I kind of take people through 5 different steps, and they're basically 5 areas where I see people getting stuck, like sleep, getting stuck in stress, drainage pathways, physically stuck, and how oils really, they're about movement and moving blocks of energy, of emotions, of whatever is kind of keeping you stuck. And so the clavicles are a big stuck point. The neck is actually one of the big bottlenecks in the body. You have everything that's trying to get into the brain, the oxygen, the glucose, and then all the things that are trying to drain out, the metabolic waste, the toxins, and there's a lot going on in the neck. You have the vasculature, you've got the lymph, you've got the nerves, the muscles, the structure.
Yeah.
It can get kind of compressed and congested.
Yeah.
So, for example, your brain detoxifies when you sleep. And, all these toxins are mobilized, and ideally they drain down the side of the neck. But if there's compression and inflammation, then they don't really drain. They kind of get stuck and recirculate, and that can contribute to fatigue and brain inflammation. So oils, you definitely can put oils along the side of the neck, but then it's a hydraulic system. So if it gets congested in the clavicle, especially the left clavicle, because lymph flows more aggressively down the left side, or under the armpits, it's a little bit like you want to make sure that you're opening up. You want to open the exit doors in the theater before you yell fire, right? So that things can move. So oils can be really good for kind of helping to open congested areas so that, the garbage can flow out of your body.
Lovely. Yeah. And I like it. It is really more apt to have the multifactorial treatment. It isn't just a one size fits all or one modality or protocol. So I really like you writing about that in your book and encouraging folks to think more holistically in general. And I would just add, so many people are not walking around with their heads on, right? So, that also plays a role here, right?
Oh, it's a huge role. I mean,
Yeah.
I love chiropractic. I am very addicted because, and that plays into the vagus nerve. If your head's not on right, then everything isn't really lining up properly.
You can see them. You can see them out there. Just kidding. All right. Well, so focus is one component. Now I want to move on to essential oils. How can they help boost energy? Because that's another big area for folks these days is, not having the focus, not having the energy. Then it's like, I just don't have the motivation or the energy, right? I'm depressed or I'm in a rut. What do we do around the energy front?
Yeah, one of the factors in that is brain inflammation. It's really weird. It's not like headaches are actually vascular things, circulation. So it's not like the brain feels pain. And when there's inflammation, either from toxins or injury or whatever it might be, we experience it as fatigue. We can't maintain focus. We can't remember words. Maybe we get tired more quickly after driving or reading. And so what's really interesting is the brain doesn't really have an off switch for inflammation. The body does. But once the glial cells in the brain kind of get turned on, it's hard to turn them off. And this is where I think plant medicine, like this is what I think CBD does, certain essential oils like frankincense, I like a combination of anti-inflammatory oils. So it's like dill and ginger and frankincense, but just even putting it at the back of the neck can kind of help to calm brain inflammation. And the other thing that contributes to energy, obviously, is our fuel, our oxygen, our blood sugar. So Cypress is actually my favorite COVID oil because it does a really good job protecting the lung barrier, but it's also great for in circulation. Like I like to apply it kind of on the sides of the neck and the back of the neck. And I've noticed that it helps with my mental focus. It's almost like, like I love running, going outside and like really inhaling air. It's really great oxygen, and then you can think better. If for whatever reason you're limited in your ability to be outside, this is a really great opportunity for you to kind of enhance oxygen flow, because you're literally increasing, the space in the veins so that more blood can flow to the brain.
Love it. Yeah, blood flow is crucial. That is how we describe Chinese medicine and what we're doing with acupuncture. And Chinese medicine is all about blood flow, informing what's in the blood and then increasing circulation. So, that's the healing properties and powers of the body travel in the blood. So that's a really great point there. So, with having kind of this brain health direction. So I want to make sure we give enough information around brain health. I mean, all of these are facets of brain health, but in particular on, you just mentioned for neuroinflammation, you said frankincense. What other ones do you have in that category for neuroinflammation? Because we don't have sensors it's not like, oh, my brain hurts like my bicep after going to the gym. Your brain doesn't really talk to you that way. So we can assume, and I don't like to assume lightly, but that if you have a level of toxicity in your body, with the rates of Alzheimer's, dementia going through the roof, other neurodegenerative conditions, that we do have a greater portion of our population with neuroinflammation. So this is really important for folks, especially those listening to What the Health. They know, it's neurodegeneration, brain health, and longevity really are the three stakes that I've put down in the planet Mother Gaia here. And so I want to make sure we're covering that.
Yeah.
So you have a lovely parasympathetic blend as well to help people really get out of a sympathetic or stress, fight or flight, that amygdala hijacking. But what other ones come to mind for you, or what would you like to share with us today?
So my big focus with that is really, the brain cleans house when you're sleeping. Yeah. So one of the challenges is that people are not getting restful sleep. It literally, when you're awake, you need your brain, right? So it needs to be focusing. When you're sleeping, it can go offline and it can shrink a little bit. So it's a little bit like a car wash activity with the lymphatic system and the glial cells, known as the glymphatic system, kind of going through and cleaning, metabolic waste, cleaning between the cells. So it's important that you sleep. One of the challenges to sleep, especially as you get older, is the scarcity, for lack of a better word, of the sleep hormone melatonin. And part of what's happening, it's a combination of factors. Melatonin works in conjunction with the stress hormone cortisol. So when cortisol is really high, it throws off melatonin. So, what you're talking about, everything we spoke of with anxiety and calming the adrenals. You can use oils for the hypothalamus, adrenal pituitary axis. But the biggest problem with melatonin is that the pineal gland that releases it is getting damaged by environmental toxins. It is not as protected by the blood-brain barrier as other parts of the brain. It's kind of right in the middle of the brain between the eyes. And all of the aluminum, that we're exposed to, the glyphosate, and then the fluoride from our water combine. Stephanie Seneff does a great job explaining how these chemicals make kind of a perfect storm. And I detail that in the book, but what do you do then? Now your pineal gland is kind of bombarded with toxins. It starts to calcify. It diminishes the melatonin release. Here is something that's really cool about, we know when we do a detox, we're eating plants. Plants kind of help the body not only return to balance, but let go of and eliminate waste. So oils are really good chelators, and you can use an essential oil blend. I call it Circadian Rhythm. I give the recipe in the book. But basically, this point on the skin, kind of right above the ears, the skin is really thin, and that's really level with your pineal gland. So you can apply it there. You can apply it on the top of the head, the back of the head, and it gets in kind of through the vasculature and to the pineal gland starts to decalcify the pineal gland, up the melatonin that's released, and improve your sleep. So that's step one. You're actually falling asleep and staying asleep so that the brain can clean house. Step two, after it cleans house, is drainage down the neck. And so the things that can compromise that are lymphatic flow, and that's tough because if you're not moving your lymph. So people should absolutely be doing all of your movement practices, and they can, as an adjunct, add in castor oil, mint oils are good for dilation. What's really interesting is that oils, everyone thinks of single oils, like lavender, peppermint. When you combine them, they do something different. And all of the research is actually looking at blends. So for example, with the lymph, you want to kind of make sure that it's moving, but you also want a downward motion because lymph is like a one-way street. It doesn't go both directions, it flows on different sides in different directions. So things that are kind of rooted in the earth, like vetiver or kind of downward motion plants, help you can combine them and it's almost like you can write your own program, but with nature to make sure that it moves in the way you want it to. So that's step two. And then step three, you mentioned the vagus nerve. And yes, it's important to be in kind of that parasympathetic healing state. But the other thing that often goes on with the vagus nerve is that it's a little bit of, it gets toxic. And so then signals get disrupted. So what does that mean? There's a Tufts research by the name of Michael Van Eckler, who calls it vagus nerve infection hypothesis. A lot of practitioners actually are doing like sonograms, like literally photos of the neck and seeing the vagus nerve inflamed there. Here's what's happening. A lot of the pathogens live in your mouth. And even if you have cavitations or root canals or, amalgams, there's a lot of toxicity that's going on in the mouth. And the exit route is the trigeminal nerve along the jaw, where it then intersects the vagus nerve. And toxins can sit too long because, the lymph is congested. So think of you're in the middle seat on an airplane between the two linebackers. Like, where are your arms going? Not on the armrest, because you just don't have the space to move. So the toxins can't flow because the lymph is congested. They get uptaken into the nerve. And then there's this underlying infection. And this, a lot of clinicians have found to be kind of at the root of 90% of the problems. There's some kind of infection, minor infection here. All of a sudden, the body thinks it's constantly sick. It's in sickness response. It's overreacting. But what's the solution? Here's where topically applied oils, especially clove, which has this constituent eugenol that makes it wildly popular in dentistry because it's a great detoxifier. So you're breaking up that log jam, that bottleneck, kind of clearing out the toxicity, which allows all of the garbage to kind of flow. Think of the freeways under construction. 3 of the 4 lanes are closed. Traffic is inching, and then you pass the construction and woo, there's 4 lanes. It's a party. You can move. It's that combination of those 3 oils that really ensures that the brain gets to clean house and then the garbage gets to leave.
That's lovely. Oh yeah, that is so important. When I went to medical school, we didn't even know about the glymphatics or that the brain had its own lymphatic or waste product way. And if you haven't seen those out there, if you're watching, listening, haven't seen the picture of the brain at night in deep sleep, it actually shrinks and then gets washed. It's so beautiful to watch that. It's soothing in and of itself, So it is, that aspect of getting that deep sleep. So that's a great triple combo there. And actually some movements for here, sometimes what I will do, I will prescribe folks pulling down on the earlobe 4 times, back on the earlobe 4 times, and up on the earlobe 4 times. And then with your thumbs, just come right down in front of that SCM, right down both sides. So you can just massage down. And that actually feels pretty good when you do it, right?
Oh my God,
so
yeah.
That's an awesome way, just so you're just right behind the ear, and then you go right down that big muscle down the side. That's a great technique to know. And clove, it's so funny, a lot of parents will find that one for their teething babies, right? Just a little bit of clove, not the Irish component of putting the whiskey on the gums, but just a little bit of the clove essential oil really does help open up, because they're so inflamed, those tiny little kids, and, you can just see how red they are before those teeth come in. And then that component on the stealth infections. And I learned that one the hard way. I had a patient for 9 months with sinus congestion, and just nothing we did was working. And it dawned on me, I was an early practitioner. I said, just out of curiosity, have you been to the dentist? And the woman was like, oh yeah, I have this root canal I've been just really sitting on for the last year. I was like, oh, I totally missed that. I am sorry. Go get that taken care of. Once she got that taken care of, all of the symptoms went away in her nasal cavity. So those are, we're seeing more and more about the microbiome of the nose, of the mouth, of the gut. And so, of course, it's this holistic component coming to fruition in the research. So really, I thank you for sharing that with our listeners out there. Yeah.
I mean, that's really what I was kind of hoping to do with this book. Like everyone talks about, red lavender on your feet. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Yes, but it's a little bit like very basic. And there's so many advanced ways that you can use oils to really complement your strategies. Like I love that massage. That's perfect. Everyone should do that every day.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like if someone says, oh, I want to lose weight, I'm thinking maybe I'll either exercise or I'll diet. If you do both, it's even better. Yeah. Like the more you can layer on, and I feel like oils are a nice adjunct and layer to what you're already doing. And that's really the message I want to share.
I love that. Love it. And so in particular, are there any big ones that come to mind? Like for some reason, I want to talk to you about Boswellia.
Frankincense.
And the frankincense. So tell me more about that one.
Yeah, that one is the one that's really been identified. So it has this constituent called sesquiterpene. And basically what it is it's missing an oxygen, so it attracts oxygen. Mm-hmm. So the way they've been explaining it is that it pulls oxygen into the brain, which I think is vastly oversimplified, but basically right. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of research, putting it, that's the one that everyone says is great for cancer. I think what it really does, I think what oils do is they're kind of balancing and adaptogenic. And what adaptogenic means is that they meet you where you're at. So say, for example, cortisol. Most people have done like the 24-hour cortisol test. It's not a flat line. It's supposed to be high in the morning and lower at night. And so, there are a lot of like glandulars or supplements that you can use to either bring cortisol levels up or raise them down. But it's a little bit of a guesswork game because you don't really know, well, do you take, where exactly are you at this time? And do we want to lift you up or lower you down? So plants, adaptogenic herbs, just meet you where you're at. If you need to get a little bit higher, they bring you up. If you need to get a little bit lower, they bring you down. Because basically what they're doing is trying to return the body to balance. So frankincense has tremendous research. Actually, frankincense, thyme, and oregano are the ones that continually show, that they're great for oxygenating, they're great for balancing. Thyme and oregano and clove as well are hot. And what that means is that if you were, say, to put a drop on your inner arm, it might turn red. It might feel really warm to the touch. It might be uncomfortable, and that's why they could use what's called carrier oils, which is just another vegetable oil that dilutes it because oil and water don't mix. So if you were to put something on your skin and it felt hot, take olive oil, coconut oil, whatever you have in your house, and just dilute it down, and then it feels better. But frankincense doesn't usually instigate that response. So it's kind of a pretty safe one to put on your skin. And also it's really interesting. I did a whole deep dive blog on this, but what part of the plant it comes from and kind of what it does in the plant is really relevant for how it works in the body. Like resin's like a natural Band-Aid, right? You cut the tree, the resin comes out, it kind of heals the skin. I think because frankincense has that property, that's what it does in us. It's very healing and restorative.
Interesting. I love that. It's kind of like a doctrine of signatures of the plant. That's a little bit further on to like what the constituent does for the plant. That makes sense as to how it aids our own system. That's a very, very holistic viewpoint that I really want to keep bringing out on this show. And I want my listeners and viewers to really start thinking that way because our pieces and part model, we're seeing the end product of that, which is very fractionated, really not great healthcare. And so the more we can work on our resilience and kind of your next project, which I'm excited to participate in, the better, right? Like now more than ever, we need these tools to come back out, right? This is kind of ancient tech that's we're bringing forward and kind of putting the new age, not the new age, but the newer spin on it, on how it works for us today. So that's brilliant. That's brilliant. All right. So coming down to the last 10 of the show, anything else that you would like to share with our viewers and listeners? Anything, any inspiration that comes to you?
Yeah, I really love that resilience piece and kind of the reminder that we have so much more power, like our tech, our mindset, our intention. We really can, no matter what is going on in the world around us. Like I always think of Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl. Between the stimulus and the response, there is a pause, and in that pause lies the power. And what I've found, what I've noticed, in my own life, I went through a horrific trauma. I lost my 12-year-old son in a car accident, and there were other families involved and children in the car. And there were some legal things that followed. And what I didn't know at the time was that attorneys really try to terrorize you and then force you to make a decision when you're kind of in that point of terror. And thankfully, not thankfully, my father was actually dying, and I was sitting with him in hospice when I got this horrible phone call from the attorney. And because I was so anxious and overwhelmed, I hung up on him because I didn't know what else to do. Yeah. And then I left the house I grew up in and kind of went for a walk in the woods that I always used to walk in when I was a kid to calm myself down. And the more I walked and the calmer I felt, the more I realized, wait a minute, this was really being depicted as like black and white, and a decision that needed to be made immediately. And the more that I think about it, the more I realize it's not black and white. There are many aspects of this, and I need more information on these points, and I need to ask more questions. And by the time I got back to my dad's house, my childhood home, I had calmed down enough where I realized first of all, I don't need to make a choice right now. There's really no deadline that's relevant. And I feel empowered, and not a victim. I have lots of options. And it was such a aha kind of moment because I see what's happening in the world, and I see how people really feel like their back is against the wall. And if you get nothing out of this talk, but just the idea that you can be empowered to calm your nervous system and to even buy more time, even if it's like just another day to think about things or think things through, that is your birthright. You have that power.
This is so important because what happens when you're in that state of when you're in a fear or in an anxiety state, you're not actually able to access your frontal lobe, your executive functioning portion of your brain, and you can't access all of your creativity. And it's really at the backbone of how I practice medicine, and the messages that I want to give to people is around how do we get into that place of calm and peace and really access that full aspects of our creativity, because that is the world that I want to live in. That's where I want my children to grow up, grandchildren down the road. I can wait for them. But, and for our loved ones, that's the community that I want to be in. And, I mentioned it once, it's not my quote on the more beautiful world our hearts know and desire. That's a Charles Eisenstein book, which I do recommend. But it really does, that resonates with me. And so, to have different techniques and different ways to access to help, have us own our autonomic nervous system of really buffering, knowing like when you're put into a trigger like that, that's not the time to make a decision. In fact, that's the worst time to make a decision. And there's a reason why people will use that as a manipulation to get you to decide. Like if you're feeling pressure or coerced or something isn't right, just say, hey, I got to take a break. I'm going to go walk in the woods or whatever the thing is, but don't make the decision because, you may more times than not, you regret those. And you haven't accessed your full creativity. So I think it's an interesting serendipity for you to be, kind of at your dad's bedside and hospice care at your home that you grew up in with the woods that you explored as a kid, to kind of process that stuff. Cause that is just some big heart energy there for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is actually why I did the Parasympathetic Summit, because I really, like you, I've noticed that when we're able to access our higher cognitive function, kind of our heart center, like we make better choices. Like every night before I go to bed, I do this process where I kind of reverse engineer the day backward, because when you look at it in reverse, it really pops out those moments that you're like, I showed up as my best self. Yeah. Like, I really love the way I handled that situation. Or those moments where you're like, not going to do that again. Yeah. But every time consistently, when I was able to kind of calm my nervous system, I always was able to show up as my best self. So that's, the direction I want to keep kind of continuing in.
That's awesome. And, I personally feel like that is our maybe spiritual work on the planet, or grist for the mill. If you're not a spiritual being listening, but, more and more, the longer that I'm on the planet, I really do feel like there are so many levels going on in this plane of existence that we're just barely comprehending. And so, again, working from that place of peace, calm, the resilience that we need to actually make these big decisions in really kind of troubling times, right? Or the kind of the Chinese curses, may you live in interesting times. Well, boy, we are in them now. And I think that's what we showed up for. That's why we are here at this moment in time and going through this major transition on the planet. So Jodi, what a pleasure. Are there any last parting words for our listeners of What the Health?
No, that's why the free gift at boostthebrain.com/gift, just look at it, pick one. One of them is actually using your tongue to paint the roof of your mouth like a paintbrush, and definitely Greg's thumb massage technique. Like it's those little minor tweaks that can make the biggest impact. And I just want to remind everyone, like you always get to show up as your best self.
Love it. Thank you so much, Jodi. Everybody, if you like the show, please give us a shout out on your favorite platform. Give us a 5-star. Tell people why you liked us, because it does make a difference. When you're out looking at podcasts, you want to know, well, is this worth my time? If you felt this was worth your time, please give us a review. Also, I really want to encourage you to share us with your loved ones, because word of mouth is how this stuff gets around the planet in a quick second. So now more than ever, these tools are at your disposal. Please share them. Thanks for tuning in. We will be here next Tuesday from 2 to 3 on the Contact Talk Radio. Thanks for tuning in.